I don't believe in chance, but the city is an orchestra of rain and red break lights the night I meet him. The sidewalk glows with neon and umbrellas. My hood is up, hands tucked in sleeves, and I am late. The crosswalk blinks green. The drizzle loosens into a downpour, so sudden I laugh and freeze on the curb. A canopy of midnight rises above me, an umbrella steadied by a hand I don't know. Are you always this brave in bad weather? A voice asks, low, amused. I turn. Rain beads on his lashes between the spokes. Charcoal suit, open collar. Rain on one shoulder because he's tilted the umbrella toward me. I'm not brave, I say, sweeping wet hair from my cheek. Just unprepared. That's a kind of bravery, he answers. I'm Ayan, Myra. Saying my name to him feels like handing over a key that we cross together. He angles the umbrella so it shelters me, and I let him, though the words "you'll get soaked" rise in my throat, too intimate for a stranger. Where are you headed? He asks. Bookshop on 7th. Inventory night. What does inventory of stories look like? Like Control wearing a pretty dress, I say. Stacks pretending to be a plan. He laughs. I like plans made of stories. He nods to his collar. Architect spreadsheets by day, sketches by night. We pass a corn vendor guarding his fire. Ayan buys a roasted ear, gold under salt and chili. We share it, hands warming around the paper. The rain plays a steady roof of sound. I like how you laugh, he says when chili dusts my lip, and I grin at myself. You don't know me. I answer, true, but I recognize how people stand in storms. His eyes hold a careful light. Some curl in. Some pretend not to be wet. Some let the sky have its say and smile anyway. That last one? I ask. That last one, he says. The shop sign glows ahead. Under the awning, he shakes out the umbrella. The bell is a small, bright note. Paper and glue warm the air. Layla, my boss, raises her brows into a paragraph. I mouth later, come in. I ask, I shouldn't, he says. But yes, the window alcove turns the street into stained glass. Choose a book, I tell him. Something about beginnings, he says. I hand him a battered book of poems with tape on the spine. He reads half a line under his breath. We sit opposite. What would you design if money weren't real? I ask, stacking returns. Shelters, he says. Not just roofs. Places that listen while you stand in them. Have you ever felt safer in a doorway than in a room? All the time, I say. Doorways hold the weather like cupped hands. We talk as if the clock has melted. He tells me about bridges that hum when wind bows across them, about light wells that turn noon into a private season. I tell him about the woman who comes every Wednesday to negotiate forgiveness for a library book from 1987. Rain gentles. Layla flicks the counter lamp bartender closing bell. I balance the till and lock the returns. He stands, reluctant in a way that makes the air heavier. I owe you your umbrella, I say. Keep it, he answers. Call it an excuse. For what? To see you again. No clever reply in me. Only a yes so large my chest feels like a room discovering windows. I'm off tomorrow after 7. Then tomorrow, he says. And the word settles like a promise written in warm ink. We step outside into a city rinsed clean. Neon reads its reflection slowly. He walks me to the corner. We hesitate where the map ends and the ocean begins. Good night, Mira, he says. Good night, Ayan. He turns away first, then looks back, lifting the umbrella in a small salute. I raise my hand, smiling. On the way home, the umbrella feels like it has a heartbeat. Rainwater braids along the curb. My phone buzzes. Layla. Who is he? Me. Someone who listens to doorways. She sends a heart. I walk on thinking the night is a page, and someone has written the first clean sentence at home. I hang the umbrella and make tea. The clock ticks. The fridge hums. Outside, tires whisper through wet streets. Inside, my heart rearranges furniture. I find the line he murmured and rate it to the quiet room. Tomorrow orbits me like a second moon. Still, a familiar shadow stirs, subtle as a lifted curtain. It doesn't own the night. It simply waits, reminding me that stories begin with weather, but turn on doors we've left unlocked. I tell myself I will lock them. I tell myself beginnings can be clean if you scrub hard enough. I write his name on a receipt and mine beside it. Ayan, Mira, two names like the start of a map. I tuck the slip into the book like a flag on new ground. That morning comes bright and rinsed. The umbrella clicks open as I head out. People hurry toward their weekday songs. At the crosswalk, a bus exhales. The light flips at the exact moment I need it to dot at the shop door. Layla tapes a sign story time at 6. Your architect? She asks, pretending not to pry. Maybe, I say. Don't let maybe make you miss yes. The day moves in paper and dust motes. Customers drift like weather. A student asks for something to make him like reading again. I hand him a slim novel that saved me once. He nods, wary, the way people are with medicines that work. Evening leans in. I tell myself not to expect. I expect anyway. At 7, the bell rings. Ayan steps in, rain pearls on his coat, though the sky is clear. He looks like the same song as last night, and also a new stanza. He lifts the umbrella he let me keep an ellipsis in his hand. Hi, he says. Hi, I answer. He offers a paper bag. Peace offering. In case the chili was a war. Inside is a lemon tart. A treaty, I say. A sweet one. He glances at the window alcove. Our seats? As we cross the floor, my phone buzzes one long, insistent vibration from a winter number I thought I'd buried. I ignore it. The tart shines like a small sun between us. Tell me something true, he says. I'm terrified of the wrong doors. I answer. He nods. Then we'll knock softly. For a moment, the room is lamplight and the quiet, bravery of two people learning the weather in each other's voices. Then my phone vibrates again longer, sharper, and I see the name I never wanted to see light up my screen. I breathe, waiting. Tomorrow can wait. The past refuses to. The rain has passed, leaving the city streets rinsed and glittering, but something of that night remains inside Myra, like a lantern she cannot put out. Every time her phone buzzes with a message, her chest flutters with that hesitant rhythm of almost love. Ayan's name has begun to live in the top corner of her screen. The letters a quiet thrill she reads again and again. Their conversations start simply. A photo of the umbrella leaning against the wall. A joke about architects building castles in the clouds. Her teasing reply about books building castles in the mind. But quickly, messages become calls, and calls turn into hours. Midnight creeps past, and neither notices until the birds begin to stir outside Myra's apartment window. I should sleep. Myra whispers into the phone one night, the sheets tangled around her legs, her hair spilling across the pillow like ink. You should, Ayan agrees softly, though his tone makes it clear he doesn't want her to. But can you stay awake for just one more story? Myra smiles into the dark. What kind of story? The kind where an ordinary day feels extraordinary because of who you share it with. Her throat tightens, heat spreading through her chest. Then tell me. There is silence, not heavy, but full, like the pause before music begins. Finally, his voice hums through the receiver. Today, I passed the bridge I designed 3 years ago. It's nothing remarkable, just concrete and steel. But a child stopped halfway across and started humming into the railings. The whole structure carried the sound back like an echoing flute. She laughed so loudly that everyone turned. That's what I want to design. Not monuments, but places where people find joy by accident. Myra presses her hand to her lips, catching the smile she can't contain. You see the world differently, Ayan. I try, he murmurs. And you? What's your story? She hesitates, the kind of hesitation born not from doubt, but from the weight of honesty. I want to write, she says finally. I sell other people's words every day, but mine sit in notebooks no one reads. Sometimes I'm afraid they'll die there. Then don't let them, Ayan replies instantly. His certainty is both comforting and terrifying. Stories are not meant to be buried. They're meant to haunt, to heal, to be heard. The words strike her so deeply that she pulls the blanket closer, as if it can hold her together. You make it sound easy. Not easy, he corrects gently. Necessary? She doesn't know what to say, so she listens instead to his breathing, steady and patient, as if he can wait all night for her to find the courage she keeps misplacing. Days pass like ripples, and soon their meetings become routine. Sometimes he visits her bookshop just before closing, pretending to browse while really watching her hands move across the counter. Sometimes she walks with him through the city after work, their footsteps falling into a rhythm that feels suspiciously like destiny. One evening, the golden hour lingers too long, and they sit together at the riverside. The water reflects the bruised colors of twilight, purple, pink, and the slow surrender of blue into black. Mira tosses a pebble into the current and watches the ripples expand outward. Funny, she says, how something so small can disturb something so vast. Ayan studies her instead of the water. Or change it. Ripples don't disappear. They blend, they shift. Maybe that's what people do to each other. She looks at him then, really looks, the way one might study a painting too complex to absorb at once. His jawline is sharp, but his eyes soften every edge. For a moment, she wonders what ripples she has already left on him, and what scars he might be hiding under the calm surface. Sometimes, she says softly, I feel like I don't know anything about you. He exhales, gaze flicking toward the horizon. Maybe one day I'll tell you everything. For now, can you accept pieces instead of the whole? Mira nods, though her heart stirs uneasily. Yes, for now. Nights stretch longer, and laughter becomes their currency. They trade stories of childhood mischief, embarrassing moments, songs that remind them of summers gone. Ayan confesses he once built a treehouse that collapsed the moment he climbed it. Mira admits she once wrote a love letter in school, but never had the courage to send it. What would you have written if you had? Ayan asks, leaning back in his chair, phone glowing between them. Myra swallows, cheeks warming. Something simple. That I liked the way he smiled when he thought no one was looking. That maybe the world could be a little less heavy if we carried it together. Ayan grows quiet, and she wonders if she's said too much. Then he whispers, if someone ever wrote me that letter, I don't think I'd let go of it. The silence that follows is fragile, trembling, but not uncomfortable. Mira feels the air shift, something unnamed, something waiting, but shadows linger. Sometimes when he laughs, his eyes don't join in. Sometimes he glances away when the conversation brushes too close to his past. Mira notices but doesn't press. She knows what it means to hide behind silence. One night, as they walk through a narrow street lined with lanterns, Mira asks, "What are you afraid of, Ayan?" He stops, hands tightening around the umbrella he still carries even on dry nights. "That I'll lose something I don't deserve to keep," he says finally. Her breath catches, but before she can respond, a gust of wind rattles the lanterns, and he changes the subject with a smile too bright to be real. She lets it go, though the words echo long after they part ways. Late that night, Myra lies awake, her phone resting on her chest. Ayan has sent her a photo of his sketchbook. A half-finished drawing of a house with wide windows and a balcony overflowing with plants. Below it, his message: home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a person. She reads it again and again until her eyes sting. For the first time in years, she feels the possibility of home not as a place she must build alone, but as something that might meet her halfway. And yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, she knows there are parts of him sealed away, shadows that stretch beyond her reach. She whispers into the darkness, as if he could hear her across the miles. "Tell me your whole story someday." The next evening, he waits for her outside the shop, his figure lit by the fading sunset. "Walk?" he asks, and she nods, heart already racing as they stroll down the street. Ayan's phone vibrates in his pocket. He glances at the screen, his jaw tightening, but he silences it before she can catch the name. The shadow in his expression lasts only a moment before he smiles again. Mira notices. And though she smiles back, a seed of unease takes root inside her, a whisper that beginnings, no matter how beautiful, are always fragile. The city wears twilight like a velvet shawl, every window spilling golden light into the streets. Mira locks the bookshop door behind her, the key cool in her palm, when she sees him waiting across the street. Ayan leans casually against a lamppost, as though the world arranged itself around his presence. "You're late," he teases when she crosses over, breathless from the small rush of her heart. "I was wrestling with a stubborn stack of encyclopedias," she replies. They won. His laughter, low and genuine, threads through the evening air. "Then allow me to avenge you with coffee." "My treat." They walk together through narrow alleys, cobblestones shining from the afternoon rain. The cafe they choose is small, tucked between an antique shop and a flower stall. Inside, it smells of roasted beans and cinnamon. They choose a corner by the window, where the world outside blurs like a watercolor painting. Myra stirs her cappuccino slowly, watching the foam spin into fragile patterns. "I could sit here forever," she murmurs. "Forever," Ayan echoes, as though tasting the word on his tongue. His gaze lingers too long, too openly, until she feels warmth climb her neck. She pretends to study the people passing by, but her heart hammers against her ribs. Conversation flows easily, memories of childhood, silly jokes, dreams whispered like secrets. But somewhere between a story about his first architectural model collapsing and her confession of sneaking poetry into math exams, silence slips between them. Not awkward silence, something heavier, charged, like the pause before lightning. Their eyes meet. The cafe noise fades into a dull hum. Ayan leans forward, his hand brushing hers across the table. The touch is fleeting, almost accidental, but electricity jolts through Myra's body. Her breath catches. "I shouldn't." He starts, then stops, his jaw tightening. "Shouldn't what?" Mira whispers, voice trembling but steady enough to reach him. "Feel this," he admits. "Not this soon. Not this much." The confession hangs between them, fragile as glass. Mira's fingers, still tingling from his touch, hover above the table before finally finding his. Her skin meets his in a trembling courage she didn't know she had. "I feel it too," she says, the words softer than a prayer. For a moment, neither moves. The cafe clock ticks. A waiter laughs somewhere near the counter. A child presses his face against the glass to watch the rain start again. But inside their corner, time folds. Ayan lifts her hand gently, reverently, as if it were made of porcelain. His thumb grazes her knuckles, slow, deliberate. His eyes search hers, desperate and afraid. "Myra," he whispers, her name like a secret. "You make the world quieter." Her chest aches with a sweetness that feels almost unbearable. She wants to laugh, to cry, to believe. Instead, she leans closer, the distance between them dissolving until her forehead nearly touches his. If this is wrong, she breathes, then I don't want right. The rain outside thickens, drumming against the window in sync with their racing hearts. His other hand rises hesitantly, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. His fingers linger at her cheek, and she doesn't pull away. The warmth of his palm grounds her, pulls her into the gravity of him. They don't kiss. Not yet, but the space between them vibrates with all the words they can't say. The first touch, the first confession, it is enough to make the world shift beneath their feet. When they finally leave the cafe, umbrellas bloom across the street like dark flowers. Ayan insists on holding hers, tilting it so she stays dry, even as his own shoulder darkens with rain. Their arms brush as they walk. Neither speaks, but every step feels like a vow dot at her apartment door. Mira hesitates. She doesn't want the night to end, doesn't want to return to the quiet rooms that will echo with his absence. He seems equally unwilling, standing close enough that the umbrella no longer shields him at all. Thank you, she says finally, though the word feels too small. For what? For today, for this. She gestures helplessly between them, as if naming it might break it. He studies her, rain dripping from his hair, his shirt clinging to his frame. Don't thank me, Myra. Just don't run away from it. Her chest tightens at the plea. She nods. I won't. Something in his shoulders eases, though his eyes still carry shadows she cannot read. He lifts her hand one last time, pressing his lips softly against her knuckles. A kiss not of passion, but of promise. Mira closes her eyes, the world narrowing to that single, searing moment. When she opens them again, he is stepping back, the rain swallowing him as he turns into the street. She watches until he disappears, her heart thundering with the certainty that something irreversible has begun. That night, Mira lies awake, her hand still burning where his lips touched. Every word, every glance replays in her mind like a film she never wants to end. She writes his name in her notebook, tracing the letters again and again, as if they could anchor her to the memory dot, and yet a sliver of unease slips through the joy. The way his eyes darkened when he said not this soon. The shadows that seemed to follow him even in laughter. She doesn't understand them, but she feels them pressing at the edges of their fragile beginning. Still, as she drifts into sleep, her last thought is not of fear, but of hope that tomorrow will bring him closer, that their hands will find each other again. Autumn enters the city like a held breath. Mornings thin to silver. Evenings arrive early, smelling of soot and damp leaves. In the bookshop, Mira tapes a paper moon to the window and tries not to check her phone every 5 minutes. Love has made time elastic. Unease now stretches it thinner, a hairline fracture spreading across glass. Layla notices. You're overbrewing the tea again, she says, rescuing the kettle. Which means you're overthinking. It's nothing, Myra lies. Is nothing named Ayan? Myra smooths the moon until it crinkles. He's quieter. Not in words. In timing. Silences where there weren't silences before. Good men get quiet when they plan proposals, Layla says. Bad men get quiet when they plan explanations. Myra tries to laugh. Nothing arrives. He's weather I can't predict. That afternoon, a courier drops a thick envelope with no return address. Inside, a photocopied article Viridian Riverfront Redevelopment Approve, dated 3 years ago. Beneath, a gleaming render. Glass where warehouses stood, boutiques. A ribbon of steel along the water. The caption lists the design team. Her eyes snag on a name she knows by heart. Ayan Karim, associate architect. The room tilts. Copper fills her mouth, old as a cut. Her father's printing press had staggered that winter under rising rents and dust. He hadn't been evicted. He had been exhausted. She remembers the notice he folded and smoothed, and the song he stopped singing. What is it? Layla asks, already near. Nothing, Myra says again, the word sharper. She avoids calling. He calls her. His name blooms and dims on the screen like a lighthouse. At last she answers. Hey, Ion says, warm with drafting table fatigue. You okay? Yeah, you? A pause. Long day. Site inspection. Are you free tomorrow? There's an exhibition at the old tram depot photos of the city when it wore soot-like eyeliner. I'll see, she says. Marionette still? Myra? Inventory week, she offers. Sleep then, he says softly. Her apartment grows immense after the click. The article lies on the table, its letters swimming. She wants the simple version boy, girl, rain, umbrella, but the world is larger than two people. Money moves like weather in flood streets. Across town, an elevator opens into cedar in calculation. Ayan steps out. Saif waits, leaning against the marble like a smirk that learned to stand. Your bookshop girl still doesn't know? Saif asks. Ayan's jaw tightens. Know what? That the riverwalk she loves was born from the plan that bled her neighborhood dry. You were Viridian's golden boy. Signatures don't wash off in rain. I left that firm, Ayan says. I fought the second phase. I fought you. You wrote the render notes, Saif says. Cities believe sunlit pictures, not footnotes. Stay away from her, Ayan warns. Then tell her before someone else does. He means it like a threat. Ayan hears it as a deadline. For 3 days, Ayan rehearses and fails versions that minimize and feel false. Versions that confess and feel like detonations. Each time he sees her beneath the depot's iron ribs, on the river steps where new lamps coin light, his window narrows dot at the depot. She lingers over a photograph of a protest. Look, she says. You could draw a diagram of hope from their throats. I could, he answers. And when her fingers braid with his heart folds into her palm. Tell me something true, she says, smiling. He tells her about the first building he loved, a library like a ship run aground. He does not tell her who paid for his first big project, or who lost when it rose. On the 4th day, the past chooses for him. During an author reading, a woman steps in, rain in her hair, calculation in her gaze. You're Myra, she says afterward, bright with pity. Farah, we were in the tenant association up by the river. I'm sorry about your father's shop. Thank you, Myra manages. Strange world, Farah continues. We fought faceless companies, then discovered those companies had faces. Handsome ones. She places a folded page on the counter, taps Ayan's name with a mint green nail, and leaves a perfume like bruised fruit. Layla watches the door swing shut. Ugly theater. Myra's pulse drums. She unfolds an old interview with Viridian's young associates, slick with future speak. In the candid photo, Ayan smiles beside a model of the riverfront scheme, eyes bright with zeal. That night she goes to the humming bridge. The river is black ribbon. Ayan finds her by the bronze plaque and stops 3 paces away, respecting a perimeter only she can sense. You got my message, he says. I got more than that. She holds up the page like a warrant. How long were you going to wait? Relief and fear cross his face. I wanted to tell you. I didn't know how without losing you while I spoke. Try. He starts with the truest version. He was 26 and hungry. Viridian offered the world and gave him a fraction. He believed in public space and safer sidewalks, and underestimated what demolition does to memory. He learned late which budget line becomes a human's bedtime. He left when Phase 2 began, when luxury units were slated, where shadow kitchens had fed whole blocks. You left, she says, and it sounds like an accusation. I left, he repeats. There is no other verb. Did you ever come to the association meetings? I didn't know yours by name, he admits, and the sentence hits the air like a dropped box. You didn't look. Her voice frays on the verb. She grips the rail until her knuckles pale. A barge passes. The bridge hums. I'm sorry, he says, coin words that won't pay the bill. He reaches. She flinches. He lowers his hand. Everything felt honest, she whispers. But honesty with a missing chapter is choreography. I'll give you the missing chapter. All of it? When? After the next envelope? After the next stranger uses my father's name like a password? She steps back. I need air. Take it, he says, hating the compliance in his mouth. But don't, he stops. Begging tastes like tin. Her phone vibrates. A photo appears. The two of them through cafe glass weeks ago. Caption. Ask him about Viridian Phase 2. Myra shows him. Unknown number. The night grows populated by watchers. This isn't just us, she says. It's a map of consequences and someone drawing circles around our feet. Let me fix what I can. Can't fix history, she says. You can only choose whether to tell it straight. Then come tomorrow, he says. There's someone you should meet. Someone I should have introduced you to when I first took your hand. Who? My mother. Slips out before he plans it. She knows why I left. She knows what I owe. I don't need your mother. You need proof I'm not the man in that interview, he says. She'll tell you what I tried and what I failed. She studies him, measuring the distance between who he was and who he wants to be. Tomorrow, she says at last. 1 hour. No more. Tomorrow, he agrees. They stand a while, two figures held on metal that hums when the wind is right. Below, the river moves without caring. Above, first drops return like memory. When they part, the city inhales. Night folds over the water, over the page she cannot unread, over the man who steps into the dark like a question. Mira walks home with the envelope under her arm, the paper crackling with each step. She imagines the story as a pane of glass, beautiful, transparent, strong, and sees the fine white lines already running through it. She doesn't know which pressure will break it, only the sound it will make if it does. She sets the envelope on her kitchen table and stares at the photocopies. Paper, ink, line small things to rearrange the living. She hears her father's old radio in a memory, the click between stations, his thumb turning the dial. Searching for a clear song that never quite arrived out at her door, the phone buzzes again. A photograph of blueprints stamped with next month dates and a phase number she recognizes. The text beneath is a single sentence. He didn't just draw the riverwalk. He drew the cut dot. Her hand trembles. The hallway tilts as if the building shifts its weight. Outside, the storm decides to speak. The rain has not stopped since dawn. It drapes the city in veils of silver, washing pavements, tapping rooftops, whispering of storms that never end. Mira walks fast beneath her umbrella, heart hammering with the same rhythm as the raindrops. In her bag lies the proof, the article, the interview, the anonymous blueprints. Every step toward the cafe feels like a march toward the gallows. He is already there. Ayan sits in their corner seat, the one by the wide, fogged window. His sketchbook lies open but untouched, lines abandoned mid-arch. When he sees her, his face lights up with relief, then falters at the steel in her eyes. Myra, he says, standing halfway. You came. Yes, she replies flatly, slipping into the chair opposite him. Her umbrella drips quietly into the stand. Silence thickens between them, broken only by the hiss of the espresso machine and the murmur of strangers. Myra places the folded papers on the table between them. The sound is sharper than it should be. Explain this. Ayan's hand hovers over the papers as if touching them might burn. He doesn't need to unfold them. He already knows. Myra, you told me you left Viridian because of their practices. Because you couldn't agree with what they were doing. But here, She flicks the article open, the photo of his younger self grinning beside the model, glaring like a wound. Here you are, smiling, proud, signing drawings that cut families out of their homes. My father's press was one of them. Do you remember those walls? The smell of ink? The sound of machines? That was our life, Ayan. And you, her voice cracks, fury and grief tangling. You drew the plans that broke it. The cafe grows hushed, sensing the storm at their table. Ayan swallows, his Adam's apple shifting like a stone in his throat. I was young, hungry. I thought the project would bring light, safety, a future. I didn't see what it would erase. By the time you understood, she interrupts, it was already ash. My father sat in that shop night after night, holding a lease he couldn't pay. His hands shook when he touched paper. Do you know what that does to a man who spent his life studying words for others? Ayan closes his eyes. He remembers meetings where spreadsheets triumphed over human lives. He remembers raising concerns, remembers being drowned out by promises of investors and renderings filled with golden light. He remembers leaving too late. I left, he says weakly. But you stayed long enough to ruin us. Myra spits. The ache in his chest deepens. He reaches across the table, desperate, but she flinches back. The rejection is worse than a slap. Myra, listen, everything we've built, everything between us, it was real. It is real. I swear I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't even know your family was affected until what? Until someone shoved the truth in my face? Her eyes glisten, fury shining in her tears. All this time, you let me believe you were different, that your silence was protection, not guilt. You lied by omission, Ayan, and omission is betrayal. His voice breaks as he whispers, I love you. She laughs once, hollow and sharp. Love doesn't erase the past. It doesn't rebuild my father's shop or erase the nights he sat in silence, because his voice was taken from him. The words land like daggers. Ayan lowers his hand, fingers curling against the edge of the table until his knuckles blanch. Tell me what I can do. Nothing, she says, standing abruptly. Her chair screeches, cutting through the cafe's hush. Nothing will ever undo what's been done. Her tears finally fall, streaking down her face like rain on glass. She doesn't wipe them away. She lets him see every drop, every fracture. Myra, please? He stands too, voice trembling. Don't walk away. Not like this. She faces him one last time. Her lips tremble, but her eyes burn with fire. You asked me not to run. But what you never understood is that I'm not running from you, Ayan. I'm walking away from the ruins you built. And if I stay, I'll only be another wall you watch crumble. The bell above the cafe door jingles sharply as she leaves, the sound final as a slammed gate. Rain swallows her figure instantly, folding her into its curtain. Ayan doesn't chase her. His legs ache with the urge, but his soul knows he no longer has the right. He sinks back into the chair, burying his face in his hands. Around him, life resumes. A cup clinks, a barista calls out an order, someone laughs too loudly. But his world has narrowed to silence, and the taste of ash in his mouth. Outside, Myra walks blindly through the rain. Her umbrella hangs useless at her side, water drenching her hair, her coat, her very bones. Pedestrians glance and look away. She doesn't care. She feels hollow, gutted. Every step echoes with his words, his excuses, his love. Love that feels poisoned now, tainted by betrayal. Her phone buzzes, but she doesn't look. She knows it's him. She knows she can't answer. Not now. At a crossing, she pauses. The red light glows against the wet asphalt. She sees her reflection in the puddle, a woman with wet hair plastered to her cheeks, eyes raw, shoulders shaking. She hardly recognizes herself. She whispers into the rain, "Why does love always come dressed as salvation? Only to reveal itself as ruin." The light turns green. She walks. That night, Ayan sits at his drafting table. Papers scatter around him, sketches of buildings that once gave him pride. Now they look like tombstones. He draws, erases, redraws. Nothing feels whole. His hands tremble, his pencil snapping under the pressure dot in the silence. His phone buzzes. He doesn't answer either. He knows Myra won't call. He knows it's Saif or Farah or another ghost from the past circling him. He whispers her name instead, his voice breaking. Myra. He closes his eyes and sees her tears, hears her voice accusing him. Omission is betrayal. The words lodge in his chest. Sharp and immovable. Mira, in her apartment, pulls out her father's old fountain pen. She traces the lines of an empty notebook, the ink refusing to flow at first. Her tears drip onto the page, blurring the words she forces herself to write. A love that began with rain has drowned in it. And yet, why does my heart still beat for him? The pages soak her sorrow, but no answer comes. Only silence. Rain loosened its grip on the city, leaving the streets glazed. Myra walked without an umbrella, hood up. She told herself she was heading to the river for air, not for him. Yet her feet chose the humming bridge, their bridge. Ayan stood at the rail, hair damp, hands in his pockets. He turned when her steps slowed. Hope flared, then braced. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "And yet," he answered, "you are." "I am." The river pushed past, black and intent. "I've drafted an affidavit," he said. "A full account of my role in Viridian. What I did, what I fought, who signed what. I'll file it with the Tenant Alliance and the city. I've spoken to Farah. You think paper is repentance?" She kept her voice level. "My father held papers until his fingers shook. It isn't repentance. It's record," he said, "and the beginning of repair." She laughed, brittle enough to send a gull up. "Repair? You can't tape a broken sky." "No," he said, "but I can stand in the rain with you." "Standing," she muttered. "Always standing and explaining. What would you have me do?" "Undo," she said, hating the childishness of the wish. "Or failing that, tell the truth in rooms where it costs you." "It will. It already has." Myra folded her arms, feeling the ache of wanting him and the larger ache of refusing him. "Why didn't you tell me the first night?" She asked. "I wanted to be something else in your eyes before I became the worst thing. You made me fall for a mask. I made you fall for a human trying to tear one off," he said. She tasted salt. "You talk like an architect everything is structure to fix. Then help me reframe. What does justice look like to you?" She pictured it, her father's press humming again. The riverfront open to people priced out. A room where men like Saif had to listen. In one version, Ayan stood beside her. In another, he was why she stood there at all. "It looks like you sitting with my father while he names what you took," she said. "It looks like you using your credentials to stall Faze. 2. It looks like you tracking every displaced shop owner and asking what repair means to them. It looks like you not flinching." "I won't," he said. "Then start," she answered. "Without me." He heard the wall she set and didn't try to scale it. "I hear you." Good. Days braided into avoidance and collision. They met at places kind before and sharp now. Desire and anger wrestled inside Mera like weather systems over the same sky. He arrived one evening with a cardboard tube. "Community meeting tonight," he said. "Redesign proposals, public bathrooms, subsidized vendor stalls, a memorial corridor." "And your firm?" She asked. "Will they let their star turn profit into penance?" "I resigned this morning." She searched his face. "So you're unemployed and righteous." "I'm free to choose right." he said. Her laugh softened. My revenge imagined you diminished. It didn't imagine you principled. So your revenge is evolving, he said. I told myself I'd make you feel what we felt, cornered and small, she murmured. But I don't want to be that version of myself. Then don't, he said. Let me take the rooms where anger belongs. The community hall buzzed with fluorescent hum and grief. Farah stood at the front. Saif lingered in back like a rumor. Ayan propped boards. Mira kept to the aisle, notebook open, heart-armored dot when Ayan began. His voice shook, then steadied. He named meetings, budget lines, votes he'd lost and won. He did not varnish. He said harm and apology without padding. He outlined restitution like a blueprint, numbers, sources, timelines. A man in a wool cap rose. You want to help now because you got soft for a girl? Because harm should be met by work, Ayan said. Loving her only taught me to measure the harm up close. The room snickered, then sobered. Farah scanned a folder he passed to her. Saif raised a hand. Convenient timing, Kareem, Saif drawled. Free of liability, hungry for sainthood. I'm here to pay, Ayan said. With what? Testimony, plans, time, access. He indicated the boards. And whatever you ask that I can give. Murmurs rolled. Mira had wanted spectacle, maybe humiliation. Instead, she got paperwork, realism, fatigue, and the sight of Ayan enduring without flinching. It knocked her anger off balance. After, he found her by the bulletin board. Thank you for coming. I came to witness, she said. And I'm not cheering, she said. But I'm not hating you as cleanly either. It's inconvenient. Inconvenient feels like progress, he said. Don't be cute. I'm tired. Not cute. She noticed the tremor in ink-smudged fingers. Eat, she said. Halim House. Steam fogged the glass. The owner slid extra lemon onto their tray. They ate at a metal shelf, heat uncurling something stubborn. I shouldn't be here with you, she murmured. I'll leave if you ask. She met the open door in his eyes. Stay until the soup is gone. They talked small common prices, paper cups, starlings that chittered like punctuation. Mercy arrived disguised as errands. Outside the shop, he stopped at the threshold. I'll keep working, he said. With or without me, she supplied. He nodded, double quotes, good. If you do it for me, I'll never forgive you. And if I do it anyway? One day I might. The light in him didn't brighten. It steadied. Tomorrow, noon. Committee hearing. Room 4B. I'll speak first. You don't have to come. I know. He hesitated. If there were a world where we could carry both things, the harm and the love, would you want to live there? I don't know, she said. But I want to. It was all she could give. He received it like warm bread into cold hands. That night wind bullied the eaves. Mira sat with her father over tea and told him everything. He listened, thumb circling the handle. Justice should be a door, not a wall, he said. But doors need hinges, small, strong pieces. Could he be one? Anger built your spine, her father said, and love built your heart. Don't let revenge replace either. Later, alone, she wrote 2 lists. What he had done. What he was doing. The first was heavier. The second was not small. Her phone vibrated. Unknown. Phase 2 moves up for vote. Saif drumming support. Careful. Another pinyon. Tomorrow, 12. Room 4B. I'll be there early. She stared at the screen until her reflection rose on the dark. Glass, a woman with stormlight in her eyes, and a key in her fist she wasn't sure she wanted to use. Desire and fury argued in her pulse. She typed, erased, then let the phone dim and pressed her palm to the window. Choose your hinges, she whispered. Choose them well. The city was restless that night. glowing with a feverish energy Myra couldn't name. Neon bled across wet streets, and somewhere in the distance, thunder cracked like a warning. She pulled her coat tighter, hurrying down the alley toward the door she swore she wouldn't enter again. And yet, she entered. The loft was dim, lit only by a lamp that cast low shadows across drafting tables littered with sketches. Ayan stood at the window, hands braced against the sill, back taut. He didn't turn when she closed the door behind her, but she knew he had felt her presence. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, weighted. "You asked me to come," Myra answered, her own voice sharp, defensive. She dropped her bag on a chair. "Don't tell me you didn't want this." Finally, he turned. His face was shadow and lamplight, exhaustion and desire. "Wanting you and deserving you are not the same thing." "Then why," she demanded, taking a step closer, "do you keep calling me back?" The space between them pulsed with unsaid things. His silence was not refusal, it was confession. He wanted her. Even in her anger, she wanted him too. Mira's breath caught as his gaze dropped to her lips, then quickly away, as if the thought itself were forbidden. She hated the way her heart answered him before her mind could resist. "Say it," she pressed, her voice trembling now. "Say you don't feel it anymore, and I'll leave." He closed the space in 2 strides, his hand hovering just shy of her arm. His voice was raw. "I can't," her chest heaved. "Then you'll burn us both." The argument sparked like flint striking steel. "You think I don't know what I cost you?" He snapped, pain flashing in his eyes. "Every time I look at you, I see the ruin I left behind. Do you think I want to be reminded? Then why hold on?" She shot back, tears blurring her sight. "Why keep me tethered to a man I can't forgive?" "Because," he said, his voice breaking, "losing you feels worse than every mistake I've ever made." Her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. She wanted to hurt him, to hate him, but his words struck something too true, too raw. "You don't get to make me feel this way," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not after everything." And then, as if fury itself surrendered, his hand brushed against hers. Just a touch, fingers trembling as they grazed her knuckles. She should have pulled away. Instead, her hand turned, weaving into his like a reflex. The fire roared between them. He cupped her cheek, thumb catching the trail of her tear. "I'm sorry," he whispered, every syllable heavy. Her breath shuddered as she whispered back, "Sorry doesn't stop the ache." Their mouths crashed together in a kiss that was not gentle but desperate, furious, alive. It was the kind of kiss that tasted of tears and salt, of promises broken and promises begged for again. Mira pushed him back toward the table, scattering sketches to the floor. His arms wrapped around her as though letting go meant collapse. Between their breaths came fragments of words, her whispering, "I hate you," his reply, "I love you," the truth lying tangled in both when they broke apart. Foreheads pressed, their breaths ragged, the silence returned. But it was not empty. It was charged, trembling with everything they couldn't resolve. "This isn't love," she said, eyes glistening. "It's survival." "Then let me survive with you," he murmured. She shook her head, stepping back, but he caught her wrist lightly. Not to trap her, just to ask. "Myra," her resolve wavered. She could feel her heart split in two, the side that screamed to run, and the side that begged to stay. The loft air smelled of rain and graphite, of longing that clung like smoke. "I can't forgive you," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to," he said softly. "I'm asking you not to erase me." She pulled her hand free, her body trembling. "Every time I'm with you, I lose myself." "Or find yourself," he countered. In the fire, the word lingered, scorching them both. Over the following weeks, they became shadows, crossing paths in secret. At the bookshop late at night, when the world outside was quiet, on the river steps where streetlights shimmered like fireflies. Each meeting was a war words hurled, tears shed, embraces stolen. One night, she found him waiting outside her apartment. "You can't keep showing up like this," she said, heart racing. "Then tell me to go." She hesitated. Couldn't. Instead, she let him inside. The fight began instantly about trust, about silence, about futures too fragile to imagine. Yet, as always, it ended with trembling hands, with mouths colliding, with bodies pressed close in a battle neither wanted to win. They lay tangled afterward, breathless, Mira staring at the ceiling. "This will destroy us," she said. "Maybe," Ayan whispered. "But maybe destruction is where we start again." Her chest tightened. "And if the fire consumes everything? Then at least we burn together." But fire is never safe. At the next community hearing, Saif approached Mara while Ayan spoke on stage. "You think he's redeemed?" Saif sneered, his voice low, taunting. "He's using you. He'll break you the way he broke the city." "You'll see." Mira glared at him, but the words slithered into her heart, planting doubt. And when she looked back at Ayan, his voice steady, his presence magnetic, she felt both pride and fear. Afterward, when he came to her, sweat shining at his temple, she couldn't stop herself from whispering, "If you fail me again, Ayan, I'll never come back." His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with desperate certainty. "I won't, I swear." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into him completely. But trust was glass, already cracked. That night, they found themselves in each other's arms again, passion blurring pain. Every kiss felt like a promise and a threat. Every touch felt like salvation and sin. The fire of longing burned too bright, leaving them both trembling in its wake. The city was hushed under a stormless night, the air so still it felt like the world was holding its breath. Mira walked through the narrow streets with cautious hope flickering in her chest. For weeks, she and Ayan had met in secret corners, their fire too fierce to be extinguished. He had spoken in community halls, submitted statements, and defied his former allies. Little by little, she had begun to wonder, could love survive even this? That night, he had asked her to meet him by the old library, its arched windows dark, but its steps bathed in golden lamplight. She saw him there, coat buttoned, papers clutched in his hand, his eyes searching the night until they found hers. "You came," he whispered, relief softening his features. "I almost didn't." Mira crossed her arms, though the sight of him pulled at every thread inside her. "Hope is dangerous." He stepped closer. "Then let me make it safe." She wanted to resist. She wanted to keep her wall firm. But when he reached out, when his hand brushed her sleeve, the wall cracked again. For a few moments, beneath the old stone arches, they stood close enough to breathe the same air, to imagine a world where everything could be rewritten. And then the world shifted. A voice carried across the square sharp familiar, filled with venom. "Careful, Myra. He's playing you again." She froze. Turning, she saw Farah step from the shadows. Farah, who had stood beside her at the protests. Farah, who had offered her sympathy in the shop. Tonight, her eyes glinted with something colder. "What are you doing here?" Myra asked, her voice laced with confusion and dread. "I came to save you from another ruin," Farah said, gaze flicking to Ayan with contempt. "He hasn't changed. All his speeches, his papers, their performances. He still works with Saif. I've seen the contracts. He's trading one project for another, making himself look like the hero while he cashes in behind closed doors." Ayan's chest tightened. "That's a lie, is it?" Farah held out a folded document, stamped and signed. "Explain this." Myra's pulse thundered. She snatched the paper, her hands trembling. The words blurred under the lamplight, but she saw enough. Ayan's name. A project Dates far too recent. Her breath caught. Tell me it isn't real. Aeon reached for her. Myra, listen. No. Her voice cracked. Tell me, right now. He swallowed hard. It's not what it looks like. Saif tried to drag me into another scheme. I refused, but they left my name on early drafts. I've been fighting to erase it. Farah's laugh was sharp. Of course. Always excuses. Always another version of the truth. She turned to Myra. Don't let him pull you back into his fire. You'll burn until nothing's left. Myra's chest tightened with betrayal's familiar sting. Her hands shook so violently, the paper nearly tore. You swore you were done, she whispered to Aeon. You swore you left them. I did? He pleaded, voice raw. Myra, look at me. Do you think I'd fight this hard, risk everything, only to betray you again? Please see me, not the paper. But the paper was heavy in her hands. And Farah's words, cruel as they were, dug deep. Every time I tried to believe you, Myra said, tears breaking free, someone shows me another reason not to. I can't keep chasing truth like it's smoke. Myra, Aeon stepped forward, desperation trembling through him. I'll prove it. Whatever it takes, my work, my career, my name, I'll put it all on the line. Just don't turn away. She shook her head, stepping back into the lamplight, her tears glittering. I can't live in a love that feels like trial after trial. I can't. The silence that followed was unbearable. Farah slipped back into the dark, leaving only the echo of her poison. Myra dropped the paper to the ground, its edges curling in the night breeze, and turned away. Aeon bent, picking it up, gripping it like a wound. His chest heaved as he called after her. If I lose you tonight, Myra, I'll lose the best part of me. Let me prove it's real. Let me sacrifice whatever's left. But she didn't look back. She walked into the night, her figure swallowed by shadow, leaving Aeon on the library steps. The paper crumpled in his fist, his world collapsing a second time. Later, in her apartment, Myra sat in the dark, clutching her father's old fountain pen. She wanted to write, to anchor herself, but her hand wouldn't move. Her heart still pulsed with the echo of Aeon's touch. Yet her mind was haunted by Farah's words. Was I a fool? She whispered to the silence. Or was I in love? Across the city, Aeon spread the documents across his desk, every page marked with Saif's signature, every draft poisoned with his name. He tore at them, circled dates, pieced together a defense. But he knew it wasn't enough. Words had failed him before. Only sacrifice something undeniable would save what remained of their love. And as the night deepened, thunder finally broke, rattling the windows. The council chamber is a bowl of echo and fluorescent light, a room built to make voices sound official and hearts far away. Chairs fill early. Cameras sprout on tripods. Paper signs lean against knees. Room 4B smells of dust. At the front, a dais waits for arguments to break. Myra arrives alone, sleeves of her black coat damp from a walk she barely remembers. She chooses the end of a row, near the aisle, close to escape. Her father's fountain pen warms her paw. She is not here for love, she tells herself. She is here for truth. A ripple moves through the room. Aeon steps in with a banker's box and a metal case. He looks like sleep lost and decisions made. When his eyes find Myra, nothing softens and nothing hardens. He gives the smallest nod, as if to say, I am about to do the thing you asked. Believe the act if you cannot believe the man, the chairwoman calls the docket. Item 7. Viridian Riverfront Phase 2 Amendments, Continuance, and Allegations. Saif stands near an exit, phone face down, a smile smoothed to glass. Beside him, Farah rests against the wall, arms folded. The memory of her warning by the library steps tastes wrong now, Like tea left too long to steep. Public comment opens. Shop owners, students, parents describe commutes rerouted around luxury scaffolding. A violin teacher speaks about sound. Through it all, Saif watches. Expression practiced. When Ayan's name is called, he lifts the metal case to the table, clicks it open, and removes a slim recorder. He sets it beside a stack of contracts banded in neon sticky notes. "My name is Ayan Karim," he says, voice steady enough to hold water. 3 years ago, I worked for Viridian. I participated in early design decisions for the Riverfront project. I left during Phase 2 planning, objecting to displacement metrics buried in finance models. In recent weeks, documents with my name implied renewed involvement. Those drafts used my name without consent. I submit proof. I also submit audio. A murmur rustles the chamber. The chairwoman leans toward her microphone. "Audio of what, Mr. Kareem?" "Meetings and calls with Viridian leadership," he says, gaze touching Saif, "including attempts to coerce my return and to manipulate timelines to outflank community. Oversight." He plugs the recorder into a tiny speaker. The room contracts around the first voice. Saif's, silk scraped over iron. "We'll clean the minutes, Ayan. Your name buys goodwill with the sentimental crowd. Give us 3 appearances, and I'll make the drafts disappear. The girl gets her heroic boyfriend. The city gets its miracle promenade." Everyone claps. Gasps cut the air. Myra's skin rises with chills. Another clip. Farah's voice, colder than Mira remembers. "Send me the printout, Saif. She believes me." One more nudge, and she'll light him on fire. Publicly, heads swivel. Farah lifts her chin. "You recorded me?" She says, "You called me first," Ayan answers. From a blocked number. "You asked what it would take to keep me away from the hearings. You said you are tired of slow justice and wanted a spectacle." The chairwoman raps her gavel. Direct remarks to the board. Ayan continues dates, emails, check images, a river of paper naming its banks. "Viridian's strategy relied on confusion and fatigue," he says. "Mr. Rasa weaponized both. When I refused to help, he pivoted to a whisper campaign. Ms. Qureshi assisted him for funding of her initiative. I have the transfer confirmation." Farah's laugh is bright and brittle. "You think they'll side with you because you bled on the floor?" She turns to the crowd. "He helped design the first cut." "I'm not a savior," Ayan says. "I'm a witness who learned too late. And I am done being late." Something like pride, small and unwilling, stirs inside Myra. The board questions begin, relentless as winter. "Who knew what, when? Why didn't you speak earlier? What do you gain?" Ayan answers without embroidery. "Nothing I value," he says finally. "I resign my state license today, effective immediately, until reparations benchmarks are met." A collective intake of breath. The chairwoman peers over her glasses. "That is unusual. It is necessary." He signs the letter and slides it across in the aisle. Saif's smile cracks. Public comment reopens. Anger finds a microphone, and so does hope. When the chairwoman calls for final remarks, Ayan looks toward Mira as if asking permission to speak to the part of the room that is not the room at all. She rises before she knows she will. "My name is Myra," she says. "My father's shop died during Phase 1. We grieved it like a person. Mr. Kareem's hands were on the knife. Early, even if he says he didn't see the blood. The truth also has this in it. Since then, he has worked where it costs. He has put his name and work on the line. My trust is not a vote tonight. My trust is a door I am not ready to open. But my city deserves a plan that stops the bleeding." She sits. The room exhales. Ayan's fingers curl against the table. Farah's jaw tightens. The board confers, recessed by whispers. At the back, Saif types rapidly. A man trying to keep a ship afloat with paperwork. Mira steps into the hall to breathe. Ayan follows at a careful distance and stops 2 paces away. The corridor's light is kinder. "Thank you," he says. "For what?" "For speaking like the city deserves witness." "And what about what I deserve?" "You deserve a life that doesn't have to choose between loving me and loving what is." "Right," he says. "Then why are we always asked to choose?" "Because men like Saif build games that look like maps," he says. "But maps can be redrawn." A door opens down the hall. Farah steps out, alone. For a second, the 3 of them hold a triangle of air. Why? Mira asks her. Farah's expression flickers. "Because slow justice is a lullaby," she says, softer. "And I have been awake too long, so you set fires." Ayan says, "So something would run toward us with water." Farah replies, "I wanted leverage." Saif offered money. "I thought I could fake the betrayal and still win the city a piece of itself back." She swallows. "I thought you were strong enough to survive the hit." "You didn't ask me." Mira says, "I was tired of asking." Farah answers. The chairwoman's assistant opens the door. "We're ready." Back inside, the chairwoman reads the motion. Continuance denied. Amendments accepted. Phase 2 frozen, pending a new plan with restitution. An independent oversight committee named tonight, citizen-led. Saif surges to his feet. "You can't, we can," the chairwoman says. Gavel the small thunder. And we do. Security rises without hurry. Saif chooses bluster over sprint. "Enjoy your martyrdom." He spits at Ayan. "She'll leave you anyway." Mira goes cold, then hot. She doesn't speak. Instead, she takes Ayan's hand. It is just fingers and a palm, a grip with a pulse inside it. The room seems to widen. "We'll leave him," she says to Saif, "but not each other." Saif scoffs. "For now." He turns already on to the next boardroom. Reporters collect sound. People hug, exchange numbers. Farah stands unclaimed under a clock. Myra approaches her. "You can still help build the oversight," Mira says. "You want me on your side?" "I want you on the city's," Mira answers. "But no more theater at my expense." Farah nods. "Deal." Outside, evening gathers on the plaza. The sky is pewter with a seam of light. Ayan sets the metal case on the steps and runs a hand through his hair. "You resigned your license." Myra says, "I did. You love the work." "I love the idea more," he says. "Maybe I can love the city better without a stamp." They stand with a nervous that doesn't demand touch but makes it available. The wind carries the smell of rain. "What happens to us now?" He asks. "I don't know," she says. The door is still locked. "I'm on the threshold again." He nods. "That's closer than the street." She almost laughs. "Who taught you to be this patient?" "My mother," he says, and they hear the invitation inside the answer. "Then let's go see her," Mira says. "If I'm to open a door, I want to know the house." He looks at her like a man shown water after desert. "Tonight?" "Tonight." A phone vibrates Myra's insistent. "Unknown. Do you really think it's over?" "Check the river." Check the scaffolding at Pier 6. A second later, the message appears on Ayan's screen. He meets her eyes. Seam of light thins. "Together?" He asks. "Together." She says. They start toward the river, their footsteps making a future out of concrete. Behind them, the council doors swing shut. Ahead, near the dark ribs of Pier 6, another truth waits. They will not know until they arrive. The city was still dripping from the night's rain, streets gleaming with puddles that reflected a bruised dawn. Mira stood by the river, her coat pulled tight, watching the water churn against the pilings of Pier 6. The events of the confrontation The contracts, the recordings, Farah's confession. Saif's fury still thundered in her chest. Ayan approached quietly, his steps careful on the slick stones. He stopped a few feet behind her, as if unsure whether distance was safer than closeness. The silence between them felt both raw and necessary. "You shouldn't be here," Mira said, her voice low, carried off by the wind. "I know," Ayan replied, "but every part of me needed to be." She turned at last, eyes rimmed red but steady. "Everything we had, it shattered. Do you understand that?" "Yes." He stepped closer, the ache in his face undeniable. "And I know shattered things cut deepest when you try to hold them. But Myra, I'd rather bleed than let go." Her throat tightened. "You think words fix what's been torn apart? You think promises are enough?" "No." His voice trembled, but not from weakness. "I think work is patience and love, even when it feels undeserved." The river surged below, restless as her heart. They walked together toward the pier, silence knitting around them. Mira finally broke it. "When Farah betrayed me, when she twisted everything you did, I believed her. I believed her because part of me was waiting for you to fail again. That's what betrayal does. It leaves cracks you can't see until someone presses their finger against them." Ayan stopped, eyes fixed on the wet boards beneath their feet. "I know, and maybe I don't deserve another chance. But I'll spend whatever's left of me proving I won't repeat the same ruin." Myra studied him, the man who had destroyed her trust and yet fought to rebuild it piece by piece. The man who had given up his career, his license, his reputation to fight for truth. Broken, yes, but also unmasked. Her voice softened. "You've already lost so much. I'd lose it again," he said quickly, "if it meant you'd see me as more than the man who failed you." Later, in the quiet of Myra's apartment, they sat opposite each other at her small table, mugs of untouched tea between them. The clock ticked like a reminder of time's fragile mercy. "I don't know how to forgive you," Myra admitted, her hands wrapped tight around the mug. "Not fully. Not yet. You don't have to," Ayan replied. His eyes searched hers, not with demand, but with patience. "Forgiveness isn't a door you throw open. It's a hinge that creaks slowly every time you push." Her lips quivered, almost a smile, almost a sob. "You and your metaphors, they're the only tools I have left," he said gently. Something in her broke, then not anger, but the dam she had built against tenderness. She reached across the table, fingers brushing his. He froze, then threaded his hand into hers. The warmth was tentative, scarred, but real. "I don't promise forever," she whispered. "Neither do I," he said. "I promise only today. And tomorrow, I'll promise again." Days turned into weeks, and though scars lingered, so did effort. They rebuilt in small ways. Ayan joined the citizen oversight team, working without pay, helping redraw plans for the riverfront that included affordable stalls, green space, and a memorial corridor for the displaced. Mira reopened part of her father's press, an art corner in the bookshop where community members could print leaflets, poems, and protest posters. Sometimes they argued over late nights, over words said carelessly, over ghosts neither could fully silence. But unlike before, silence no longer swallowed the arguments. They spoke, even when voices shook, even when tears fell. One evening, as they painted signs for an upcoming rally, Mira dropped her brush and stared at him. "You scare me," she confessed. He looked up, startled. "Because of what I did?" "Because of what I still feel," she said. "Even after everything, I still want you. And wanting you terrifies me." He set down his brush and moved closer, his hand hovering near hers. "I'm scared too," he admitted. "Because every time you look at me, I see both love and doubt. and I don't know which one will win. Maybe neither has to win, she whispered. Maybe they just coexist. Like light and shadow, he nodded, eyes damp. Then let me live in both with you. Weeks later, they returned to the humming bridge at dusk. The city lights shimmered against the river, and the air smelled of rain again, just like the night they first met. Mira leaned against the railing, her hair whipped by the wind. Do you ever wish we'd never met? She asked softly. Ian's eyes widened. Never. Do you? She considered, the river's hum filling the pause. Sometimes I wish we'd met later, when you weren't carrying so much guilt, and I wasn't carrying so much pain. Maybe then we'd have been easier. Maybe, he agreed. Then he reached for her hand, holding it against the cold metal rail. But easy things don't teach us how to fight for them. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she didn't see only betrayal in his eyes. She saw the man who had chosen sacrifice, who had endured loss, who had stood beside her even when she turned away. And those scars still marked her heart. Love pulsed stubbornly beneath them. Her voice broke as she whispered, I don't know what the future holds, but I want to find out with you. His grip tightened, his forehead leaning gently against hers. Then let's build it from the ruins, brick by brick, scar by scar. The wind rushed around them, carrying away the bitterness that once filled the space between. That night, back in her apartment, Myra opened her father's old notebook. On a blank page, she wrote, Love is not perfect. It is not clean. It is not without scars. But it survives. It chooses. And sometimes it rises even after ruin. She closed the notebook, her chest aching but lighter. Ian entered from the kitchen, 2 cups of tea in hand. He placed one before her, then sat quietly across from her, waiting, patient as ever. Myra looked at him, at the man who had broken her heart, and then fought to help her piece it back together. She reached across the table, this time without hesitation, and took his hand. They sat like that in silence, the world outside moving on. But in that small room, a promise fragile, scarred but real was made.